Today we will look at RTL design, say example 2. So let us state the problem first of all. Our aim is to design a block which will take say 4-bit inputs A and B. In addition to that, it will take one mode selection input, and the output is say 8-bit, and what it does is that this block, if m is equal to 0, then it will do A plus B. You don't need 8 bits for A plus B, but I'm keeping 8 bits because if m is equal to 1, then I want A into B. Okay, so these are unsigned input. There is no sign here, all are positive numbers, binary numbers, 4-bit inputs. So if you multiply to 4-bit numbers, you will get a result which may require 8-bit maximum. So if m is equal to 0, so there is a external mode selection input which will decide whether the output is corresponding to product or whether it is corresponding to addition of A plus B. So how to decide or how to design this? Okay, and suppose when we are putting a new set of input, we want to tell this block that we have put a new input, so you may start your operation from the beginning. For that purpose, you can give a start input. Okay, so what does this start input? It says that we have placed a new set of input A and B and mode selection input M, and begin to work on it and produce the output. Okay, so this block will initiate its function only when the start is 1. And similarly, you can have another output which will tell that okay, it is done, now you can check the output. Okay, so that is like done output. So it tells basically that whatever for the input that was earlier kept, the output is now available. Okay, and you can take that output and do further processing with it. And if the start is again 1 at that time, it will again redo it. Okay, and if the start is 0, it will just hold the output and remain like that, waiting for the new input as well as the new start. Even if the input comes, it will wait for the start input in order to begin the new set of calculation. Until then, the earlier result should remain. So there is a lot of importance for the specification of the design is to be made very, very clear. So whenever you are designing a architecture, the customer who comes to you, who approach you for making a design, from them you should learn what are the features that you want for the block that is to be designed, and that features or those specifications should be made as vivid as possible, as clear as possible, and only then you can decide how to make your architecture, or how to make your design according to it. Okay, if there is unclarity about the specification, there will be a lot of fussiness that would come, lot of variations would come in the design, which may not be appropriate for the customer. So it's the job of the engineer to learn from the customer all about what is the requirement that he has, and accordingly you have to make a design. And another thing is, if the customer has any constraint, like with respect to area, whether he has a constraint with respect to speed, with respect to power consumption, whether he has a constraint, then the design process should be done within those constraints. So you need to meet those constraints properly. Okay, so right now I'm not putting any constraint, because we are just beginning to learn the procedure for RTL design. So if you want to do something like this, we have to first of all come up with the parts which are going to be there, or the hardware units which are going to be there in the data path. So, and once you decide on the data path blocks, what are the blocks that are going to be present in the data path, after that we talk about, or we design the controller part. So always the first focus is always on the data path. So what should be there in the data path, and there are so many variations you can have in the data path. Okay, so meeting these specifications, you can have various ways of design, but for example, the order could be made in a particular way, the multiplier could be made in a particular way. All those are like variations that are possible, and even the algorithm could be written in a particular way. The bigger the design, the possible variations are going to be larger. Okay, but this is a smaller design, so you may not have much variations possible here. But of course the functional unit could be designed in different ways. So let us look at what should be there in the data path. Okay, so first of all, since all our design approach is going to be based on register transfer operations, so we will have a register for storing A and storing B, etc., because the A may go away after say 1 clock cycle. So if you want to keep the value of A for further clock cycles down, so you need to have A stored or B stored inside the register. But if it is not required, you don't need to store. You can just take it directly. So one thing I forgot to mention is that there will be a clock also. Okay, so there will be a clock also. Okay, so data path. Blocks. So what are the data path blocks that are required for making this design? Number one, we need registers. So we need registers. How many we need? At least 2 registers in which we can keep the inputs. Registers R1, and that should be 4-bit. Then register R2, that is also 4-bit. So this is to keep the A input, and this is to keep B input, and then the result that we get should be kept in, it's an 8-bit output. So if you want to keep it in a different register, then you require say R3, which is 8-bit. Okay, so this is to keep the y. So this is a input, this is b input, and this is y output. So we require them. Then what are the operations that we need to perform? We need to either add it or multiply it. So we need an adder and a multiplier. Okay, so here comes the variation. Now you can perform multiplication by a full hardware unit, which will take 4 inputs, and then using an array multiplier. So array multiplier is something that you have studied, I have taught you in the digital electronic class, where you generate each product terms. Like if there are array multiplier, I'll just mention. So one of the way in which you can design multiplier is to make use of array multiplier. So this is fully a combinational circuit, array multiplier circuit. So if you have two numbers, say A3, A2, A1, A0, and these are these binary values. A3 can be either 0 or 1. Similarly A2, A1, A0, and similarly B3, B2, B1, B0. So the idea is basically you need to first generate A0, B0. So okay, you take one bit, so that will be the first multiplication, and then A1, B0, and then A2, B0 generate, and then A3, B0. Now how do you multiply? You can use AND gate. Only when both are 1 you will get it 1. If any of them is 0, so you can implement this part, this bitwise, I mean 2 input AND gate can be used to generate these product terms. Okay, so multiplication, binary multiplication of single bit can be performed with an AND gate. And similarly you do A0, B1, A2, B1, A1, B1, then A2, B1, and A3, B1. Again you use 4 AND gates, 2 input AND gates, so you can generate these also. Then what you need to do, B2 you need to multiply. So that will be A0, B2, and likewise you do this, and the next one will be B3 into A0, B3, the order in which I have written. I insist that order, it will be A0, B3. Okay, and similarly A1, B3, etc. So all this product term you can generate with the AND gate. So how many 2 input AND gates are required? You need 16 AND gates with 2 input each, for 4 in each row. So that you can easily implement. And then you need to the LSB of the product is just A0, B0, whatever is the output of the AND gate, and here you need to add these two bits. Okay, A1, B0 is 1 bit and A0, B1 is another bit. You need to add them. So in order to add them, what you need here at least a half adder is required. So that will give you your P1, and then there may be a carry that you may get. Okay, so that carry you can pass to the next bit. When you add 2 bits, if they are 1 1, you may get a carry, so that you need to pass. And then what you require, in order to add this bit and this bit with the carry, you need a full adder here. Okay, so let me just denote that. So here you need a half adder to add these. Okay, and here you need a full adder because you have a carry input and another 2 bits and then so that addition may generate a carry which you can either okay, you can give it to the next position, and after adding this 3 bit whatever result you get, to that you need to add A0 B2 bit, so that may also generate a carry. Okay, so here you need a full adder and here you need a half adder, because there are only 2 bits to be added. Here there are 3 bits to be added, so wherever 3 bits are required to be added, you use full adder and half adder. So in this way you can build, and this circuit I have already taught you. If you go back to the digital electronics class, you can see the if you want to see the detailed architecture of array multiplier, you can look at it. Okay, so I'm not going into the complete detail of it. You revise it from your earlier class. So that could be a block, a sub block which could be inside this. Just like adder is a functional block, you can think about array multiplier as a functional block. So you require functional blocks. So functional blocks, in functional blocks, what are the things? You need a 4 bit adder, then 4 bit multiplier. So one of the way in which you can implement 4 bit multiplier I have shown you. It could be an array multiplier. Okay, so it could be an array multiplier. Now array multiplier is likely to take more time to finish the multiplication process, because the carry need to propagate from one end to the other, and therefore the time taken by multiplier may, if you compare with the 4 bit adder, it may be larger. Okay, for adder case you need to propagate only 3 stages. Okay, but for multiplier you have more stages. Okay, all vertical lines are one stage, and since we are shifting it before adding, so there is going to be larger number of stages. Okay, so P0 to P7 for example, the last carry will come in P7. Okay, so that will have some delays there, so we need to take into account of those delays, when we design what should be the clock frequency at which we can operate it. Now what else we require? Anything else we require other than the register and functional block? Of course we require bus in order to connect between register and input and functional blocks and output, etc. So we also require bus. Do we need a multiplexer here? So that is something that we need to think about, because the output can be taken, the output Y could be coming from the output of adder, or it could come from the output of multiplier. So we need to choose between the two. So there should be a 2x1 multiplexer. Okay, so the 2x1 multiplexer should decide whether we are taking the adder output or the multiplier output. Okay, so these are the components that are required in the data path. So now we need to think about the algorithm. How will we put them together? Okay, so what are the inputs? We have a start input, then A, B input and mode input. Okay, so these are the input apart from the clock. Okay, so let's draw these registers. So these are 4-bit registers R1 and another register R2. So to this we want to load our A data, and to this we want to load the B data. Okay, and suppose we want to load the M input also to some other data register, say let's say F register. It's a 1-bit register, okay, that I have not mentioned earlier. So if you want to keep that also stored inside, you have to use a single bit storage element like a D flip-flop. Okay, so that is my M input. Okay, so let us specify that also. Then F register, like flag, that will decide what is going to be the operation, okay, which is 1 bit. Okay, so this is for M input. Okay, so those inputs are taken into consideration, and then we need a multiplier and an adder, okay, 4-bit multiplier and 4-bit adder. So let me draw. So this is multiplier for 4-bit adder, 4-bit adder. So there will be a 4-bit output and a carry output, and I'll have a multiplier also. So these are functional units, 4-bit multiplier. So this will also take 4-bit, 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 and here the output that is going to come is say 8-bit. Okay, so the inputs to the adder, one of the input comes from say comes from register 1, okay, and the other comes from register 2. Similarly, you can have R1 going into the multiplier, one of the input, and R2. Okay, so this is continually given, and whenever the input is available, these are combinational circuit, it will take some propagation delay, and after the propagation delay the output will be available. Okay, so it is available doesn't mean that we will get it at the output. So because we are going to put a register at the output, so which is going to be an 8-bit register. So this is my R3 register. Now I can put my data either from the adder output or multiplier output. So in order to decide between the two, I should put a so this is data routing using a 2x1 mux. 2x1 mux. So there are two inputs. So this is 8-bit input, okay, and therefore this should also be 8-bit. So what we do is we combine these. So 4 plus 1, that is 5, and then 3 more bit I should so that should be 0. So all of these are combined. Okay. So this is 8-bit. So I have broken up here those 8 bits. 4 bit coming out from the sum output, 1 bit is the carry output, and the 3 bits I have parted with 0. So it will always be 0, because we will not get a result which cannot be contained beyond, which cannot be contained in 5 bits. So the 3 bits are necessarily 0 when you add two 4-bit numbers once. Okay, so
Sir,
yes.
Sir, from can you please explain it again? Why we take it 0?
Okay. What I'm saying is that if you take an order which take a two 4-bit input. Okay, so this is one set of input, and this is another set of input. So this is my A0 to A3, and this is my B0 to B3. And if you add two 4-bit number, you will have S0 to S3, and added to that there will be a carry, right? This is how you get the output. The maximum number I can take is what? I can take 111 plus 111. Okay. So if I add these two numbers, 1 plus 1 0, and then I will get a carry. So it will be 1 1 1. So this is the result. So the maximum input is 15 15, and if I add 15 15, I will get 30. So 30 can be represented by using 5-bit. So that is like carry and the 4-bit sum output. But to this register R3, what I should give is 8-bit. Here there should be 8 bits. Okay. After multiplication, you already have 8-bit, so that is coming here. But multiplexer, it's a 2x1 multiplexer. So if you look at the multiplexer structure, it will be looking like this. So there is an 8-bit input, another 8-bit input, and then output is also an 8-bit output. Okay, so 2x1 max means there are two choices, and out of this which of the 8-bit should come at the output is determined by a select input. Okay, a select input. If select input is 0, I will take from here. If it is 1, I will take from here. Okay, so the multiplexer should have two 8-bit input. This should be 8-bit, and this should also be 8-bit. Okay, so when I put a cut here, please note that it's a bus. Bus means a set of lines. Okay, so if I write 4, then it's a 4 input. Okay, so 4. Sorry, here it is not 4, it is just 1. Here there is no, it's just a single bit. So this is just a single bit, but here it's a 4-bit input. A is a 4-bit input, B is a 4-bit input. It is getting stored in register R1, and it is also getting stored in R2. Okay, B is getting stored in R2, and then A should come to 4-bit order, B should come to the other input of 4-bit order. Similarly, for 4-bit multiplier also, A should come as one of the input and B should come as the other input. Both are 4-bit input, but the output is 8-bit after multiplication. So you can just multiply and see. If you multiply 15 into 15, you know that the result is 225. So you require 8-bit to denote 225, right? So that's why the output of multiplier is 8-bit, whereas adder will only require 5-bit. So what about the additional 3-bit which we need to give at the input of multiplexer? So we need to append it with 0. So 3 bits are connected to 0 permanently. Is that clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now finally we have the output getting stored in this register, which we can give outside as y. If required, if you can also use a buffer to give this output. So this is also 8 bit. So there is a buffer here, and the buffer input, buffer control input. Okay, so I will just use BC, standing for buffer control. So if buffer is 0, whatever is at the input will not come at the output, it will be in high impedance state. So the operation of buffer is like this. It's a tri-state buffer. Okay, so this is BC, so this is your Y, and this is your A. So the operation is like this: Y is equal to high impedance state if BC is equal to 0, and if it is equal to A if BC equal to 1. So that's the operation of the buffer. So we want the output to come only after the result is computed. Okay, so it may take some time, some clock cycles, for result to be computed, and when the result become available, only then so that is when the register gets the final result. In this case, even if you don't have a buffer also, it doesn't make much difference, because it may take only one cycle to compute the multiplication or the adding operation. Okay, but still let's keep it. That's an option that you can have. Okay, so we have put in the data path requirements. Okay, so it has few registers, one 4-bit multiplier, 4-bit adder, and multiplexer, and tri-state buffer. So I can put tri-state buffer also along with the multiplexer here. So this is also coming in the router. So data path contains these three type of components: registers, which are memory elements, and then functional blocks, and then routers. These are all for routing the data. Okay, so now the thing is that we need to control the flow of data in this architecture, and for example, for control every register will have a clock. Okay, so that is understood. Even if I don't explicitly draw it, you should always know that clock is there in every register. All operations are synchronized. Okay, so this is clock. Okay, but apart from that, you need some control signals. And the control signal here is the only requirement or the feature for this register is that it should be able to load the data parallelly, and it should output the data parallelly. So it's a parallel in, parallel out register, which you have already studied. Okay, so it will have a load input, say LD1, and the register R2 should be independently controlled with another load signal. Okay, and similarly all three, and if they turn out to be same, because the loading usually happens in the first step, where so you can give same load signal for LD1 and LD2. Okay, so that you can later specify, or here itself, if you are sure about it, the LD1 and LD2, they are going to be the same, then you can put one signal LD for a common signal to two registers, and similarly so this I will call again LD. So this also we will load parallelly at the same time. So since I know that I would load all of them at the same time, I can make things simpler by saying that. So this is what I was telling. Everywhere I will just put LD. Okay, so they are all same control signal, because whatever operation that I do on R1, R2, R3 and F register, they will be done parallelly, and therefore same control signal. If you write them separately, there is no harm in that, but then later you need to specify that LD1 equal to LD2 equal to LD3 is equal to same. Okay, so similarly there is going to be a load signal, but this load signal is going to be different. We are going to load R3. It's a result that we are going to load, and that has to be done at a different time. So this has to be distinguished. So I will call LD3. Okay, what is the other control signal? I need to select between multiplication result and adding result, and that control signal I have to generate. Okay, so the input is called select input. Okay, select input, SEL stands for select. So all the red ones are the control signals that are required. Okay, one more is there. I need to give this BC. Okay, so this BC is also a control signal. Okay, so I think those are the control signals. So we need to generate these control signals. Okay, so we need to now go to ASM chart, which will basically pictorially represent the flow of data in the form of state transition. Okay. Okay, so
sir,
yes.
excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you please again explain the necessity of the buffer, sir? So the necessity of buffer, sir.
Buffer is not in this case it is not essential, but I am telling you the function of tri-state buffer. The output will come at a particular clock cycle. Okay. Okay, if in the specification it is mentioned that the output only when it is arrived in R3, the content of R3 should be available at Y. Okay, so initially it is not available, so the state of R3 may be something else, which may be like previous result or something like that. And suppose we don't want that previous result to be shown in other during the initial part of the computation, so you can hold it in the high impedance state. So if you want to keep the output Y in high impedance state prior to the availability of result in R3, okay, then you need to have a tri-state buffer. Is that clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it all depends upon specification. That's why initially I told you, how does the customer specify his requirement, accordingly you have to decide whether so if he says that I want the previous result to be continually displayed until it is replaced with a new result, then you should not put a tri-state buffer there. Okay, so it depends on the way the customer specifies. Okay, so let's now go to what is called as the ASM chart. ASM chart. So ASM stands for algorithmic state machine. So it's something like a state diagram. Okay, but it has good connection with the data path hardware that we have already drawn. you can have a, if the normal state diagram doesn't tell any information about what is going to be the hardware of the data path look like. So the difference between both are containing more or less same kind of information with respect to the state transition, the state diagram, which like we denote with circles and arrows, okay, which we learned when we studied about FSM, okay. But apart from that, those informations in ASM chart, we have some kind of detailing of the hardware that corresponds to this design, okay. So first of all, let's say that to start with, so whenever we draw a rectangular blocks, that corresponds to a state, something like the circles in the state diagram, okay. So state 0 is a state in which the block is actually waiting for start signal, okay. So it has an input which is start, and what is it doing? It just it remains idle. So S0 is basically an idle state, doing nothing, okay, and it is waiting for the start signal to come. And yeah, so once the start signal arrives, okay, so then start signal is an external signal, external input, which was not there in the first design that I told. So since there is an external input and we need to take an action based on the external input, we will check whether start is equal to 1 or not, okay. It's like a decision making. Is start equal to 1? So we will keep on checking. In Verilog you can implement it with always block. In always block you give this start. So whenever there is a change in the start, you can check whether it is equal to 1, and if it is no, then okay, nothing interesting happens, you go and remain in the idle state, okay. So comparing it with the state diagram, it is like S0 is there and start is an if start is an input, and when the start input is say S, I call it, or start, if it is equal to 0, you remain there. If it is 1, so this is basically 0, and if it is 1, then we need to proceed. So we need to proceed to a new state, and what is that we need to do? We need to load all the registers first, okay. So R1, R2, R3, so we need to load all of this. So we denote those operation. This is a decision box, okay. So there are some names for all of this. So this is called in ASM chart, this rectangular box is what denotes the state. So therefore it is called the state box. The next box where we check the condition, so this is called the decision box, okay. So if decision is 1, then we need to perform certain things, right? And whatever we need to perform, that has to be specified. So what are the things that we need to perform? We need to load R1 with A input, R2 with B input, and F with the mode input. So these are the things that we need to specify, and this is usually since it depends upon the condition whether start is equal to 1, there is a different style of drawing here. Okay, so whenever input determines what is going to be the action that is taken, we have a new block, and that block is called a conditional box. Okay, so this is the shape of a conditional. You can put this way also, conditional. Okay, so there are in the ASM chart there are three kinds of box, but this in the previous example I have not drawn these two. I only had the state box because there was no conditions that we looked at there, and therefore there was no decision box, and then depending upon the condition we don't have different actions taking place, and therefore we didn't have a conditional box. So once so when these things are done, the state, what is the state it is going to go into? It is going to go into a new state. Okay, so this is corresponding to the new state. So here you see that ASM chart gives a lot of details about what is going to happen in the data path, which is missing here. So if I draw the corresponding so this is say S1, when start is equal to 1, it will go to S1. Okay, that much only we will say. We don't say anything about the actions that are going to happen in the. So this is in that way it doesn't give you any information about the hardware. The state diagram doesn't give you any information of the hardware, whereas ASM chart it tells you, you know, not only the way in which the state changes, but also gives you some detail about what are the actions taking place inside the data path. Okay, so now it goes to.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, in the previous diagram,
yes,
we could not connect the flag register, means M.
In the previous diagram means here.
Not ASM chart before the design. Yes, sir. There.
This one. Tell me what is the question.
Means here if M is equal to 0, then the function will be added, and then if it is M is equal to 1.
See, that is decided by the control signals. I have only drawn the data path. There is a second part of the design which is an FSM or controller. So before we go to the design of controller, I am drawing the ASM chart. So this is the approach. First we decide upon what are the hardware units that are required, and then we come with the data path. Okay, and then we draw the ASM chart, and from the ASM chart we design the controller. And the controller will generate certain signals which I have denoted here with the red color. Okay, all these are generated by controller. So
okay, sir.
So if controller is generating a signal, for example select input, and to answer your question, so the controller will generate a select input which will decide what is going to be loaded into R3, whether it is the sum or whether it is the product.
Okay, sir.
Okay, if it is 0, so if I may denote 0 here and 1 here. Okay, so 1 means multiplication result will be loaded, 0 means order output will be loaded. So that is determined by the select input. So select input, who will give? The controller will give. So we have to design the controller, then only the design is going to be complete. So RTL design has not only the data path specification but also the controller specification. So I have now listed two states. One is S0 and the other is S1. S1 is a state where we go to from S0 when start is equal to 1. Okay, so that is what, when start is equal to 1 we go to S1. But what are the things that we will do also? We need to generate an control signals for doing these operations, like A getting loaded into R1, B getting loaded into R2, M getting loaded into F. Okay, all those needed to be done when we are in state S0, when start become 1, all of these things has to be done, and then it goes to S1. So that is what we are saying. Now once we reach S1, what will happen? We need to do another check. The check that we need to do is whether my M. So now I am coming into the question that you have asked. So here I am going to check whether my F is equal to 1. So I am checking. Okay, is F equal to 1? F is where I am storing my M input, mode input. So there will be two answers for this. One answer is that no. Other answer is yes. So if it is 0, then what should I do? I should perform R3 equal to R1 plus R2. Okay, the content that are stored in register 1 and register 2 we have to add, and since it is a conditional statement, I will put a conditional box, okay, based on the decision that is taken. If it is 0, I have to do this. Okay, otherwise what should I do? If F is equal to 1, I should multiply. So how do I represent that? R3 is equal to R1 star R2. Okay, I am assuming an array multiplier which is a combinational circuit, as I told you and we learned in the digital electronics class. So after some propagation delay, maybe order result will be available quickly, but if F is equal to 1, we won't choose that. The multiplier result may come little later, but within the clock cycle. Both will come within the clock cycle. Okay, but then one of this only will be achieved. Okay, depending upon whether F is 0 or 1. Okay, so we are checking F. Maybe another way of writing here is just to write F. Okay, so we will check whether what is F, and depending if it is 0 we do this, if not so then after coming to that both will not be done, only one will be done. So we came back. So now what? Now so I have loaded my register. I have loaded my register R3 with whatever is my required operation result, that is multiplication or order. So it is available now. It is available now at R3, and therefore I can so in order to do the register transfer operation, I need to generate those control signal for LD okay, LD3 as well as select signal. So those are the control signals that need to be generated, and that depend upon the input F. Okay, so now if I did not use any tri-state buffer here, the result will be available in that from that time onwards. Okay, the result will be available. So okay, so I have completed my operation. So then what was my output? Okay, in the we need to go back to the specification. There is an output called done. So we checked the start and then we checked the mode, and then we added or subtracted and stored the result in R3, and then we need to generate a done. So done is equal to 1. Okay, so I can specify, so done, so okay, I done is equal to 1. Okay, so after I perform this, I have finished everything that is needed to be done, and therefore I can go back. Where should I go back? I should go back to the beginning, to my idle state. So it only requires 2 clock cycles to perform the operation. So I will go back to the idle state. Okay, and but now my result is available at R3 and my done is set to 1. Okay, so this is my ASM chart. Okay, so from the ASM chart, now we need to write the state table and make the design of the control unit. Okay, so if I draw the state diagram, so start equal to 1, I have gone to S1, and then when I am in S1, I check my my F input, and if F input is 0, I perform but here I don't need to do that. Okay, so if I am in my S1 state, depending upon F is equal to 0 or F equal to 1, I will go to basically I go to S0. So that much only I can say. Definitely we are going, whatever path we are choosing, that is whether we go through this or whether we go through this, I have to go back to my S0 state. Okay, so that is definitely, and whether it is F is 0 or 1, I have to go to S0. So this much only detail will be available in the state diagram. Okay, so state diagram doesn't give you any information with respect to what is happening in the data path. Okay, it only shows you how the state changes. It is at S0 to start with, and then it will continue to remain at S0 when the okay, we can give D can be okay, yeah, so we can give done equal to 1. Okay, so this is the output it will show. Okay, so this much only the state diagram. So it is at S0 to start with, I will repeat, and then if start is 0, it will continue to remain there, but if start is 1, it will go to S1 state S1, and then in the next clock cycle it will go back to, because it only require 1 clock cycle to perform the computation, multiplication or maybe addition. It will only require 1 clock cycle. That is the assumption that we have taken, and then if you are using the array multiplier, that is how you should take it. Okay, but there are other multipliers which would require more time, so I will come into that a little later. Okay, so to to start with, we are at S0. When the start is 0, we will continue to remain at S0 as long as start is 0. And if start becomes 1, we go to S1, and then depending upon what is the input, we perform certain operation and then go back to S2. So your controller require only 2 states, okay, and if it is 2 states only that you require, I think the controller only need 1 flip-flop. Okay, the controller only require 1 flip-flop. When it is 0, you are at S0. When it is at 1, you are at S1. Okay, so let's now create the state table and design. So let us identify the state. So there are 2 states. So it is natural to identify S0 as q equal to 0, and then S1 is q equal to 1 is S1, and q equal to 0 is, so there is only one bit that is required. So that's the identification of the state. Now we can draw the state table. So q plus, how should it change? Now the change is going to depend upon input also, right? So there are certain inputs, especially the start input. Okay, the state diagram depends upon the start input, as you have seen here. When it is 0, it stay on. In S1 to S0, it doesn't depend upon the start input. So here start is basically don't care. Okay, if it is don't care, you don't need to write it also. Okay, so there are how many combinations? 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1. Okay, so this is a Mealy machine. Yesterday what we saw was Moore machine, and in Mealy machine only decision box and conditional box, all of this will come. Okay, it's a Mealy machine. The controller is going to take an action that depends upon the input. Okay, external input. If it is depending upon the external input, then we have to do the state transition differently. Okay, so here if it is start is 0, we remain at S0. If it is 1, we go to S. So we have to put in that information. So we are at S, here it is at 0, S0, and then we go to, so we remain there when start is equal to 0. So we remain here. Okay, what about when state is 1? When state is 1, we don't, where should we go? We have to go to, when it is, sorry, let me just make it clear. Okay, so when state is 0, so S0, when it is S0, so q equal to 0 means it is S0, and when start is equal to 0, what are we doing? We are going to remain there. We are going to remain there. We are going to remain at S0. Okay, when it is at S1, we don't care about the start signal. When it is at S1, that means q equal to 1 means we are at S1, and we don't care about start signal. We will definitely go to S0. Okay, is that clear? The same information I am putting it in a table. I will repeat again. If q is equal to 0, I am at S0. Okay, q equal to 0 means I am at S0. S0 is mapped as q equal to 0, and at that time if my start is 0, I should remain at the same state as 0. Okay, S0 is 0. But if I am at S1, I don't look at what is the value of start signal. I go definitely to S0. So it is S1 to S0. Then The next one, I am at S0, my start is 1, so I should go to S1, right? I should go to S1. Okay, when start become 1 and I am at S0, I should go to S1 state. And then if I am at S1 and the start is 1, I don't care whether start is 0 or 1, I have to go to my next state, which is going to be S0. Okay, so this is basically the state transition. Depending upon input, since it is a Mealy machine, it will depend upon the input, the next state will be generated. Okay, so now we need to generate the control signal. Okay, so the control signal will also depend upon another input, which is M input. So I need to bring in the F input also, but F input doesn't influence the transition of the state. Okay, but it will decide how my outputs are going to be. Okay, so I need to, my control signal, when I generate, I have to, okay, so let me put 0 0 0 0 and then 1 1 1 1. So this is another external input based on which I take different action, and then 0 0 1 1 and then 0 0 1 0. This will be same because I don't care about F. Okay, that's why I didn't put it initially, but if you put that also initially, since it is don't care on F, the state transition doesn't depend on X. So 0 1, so I'm just repeating. Okay, the above 4 things I'm just repeating down, whether it is F0 or F1, I will repeat it. Okay, so but when it comes to my control signals, so what are my control signals? One is like LD. Okay, LD also doesn't depend upon my F, right? LD depends on whether start is 1 and we are at S0. That's what LD depend on. And what is the other control signal? So let's list out all the control signals. So we need to go back to the data path. So I denoted about LD. Then the other is select and LD3 and BC. Okay, buffer control. So let us list out select. That is another control signal. Then we have two more, LD3 and BC. Okay, buffer control. Okay. Okay, so now you can tell me what should happen in each of the case. Basically, F start and Q is going to determine my LD. But in the case of LD, whether it depends on F or not. Will it depend on X? The LD, will it depend upon F? What are the, no, it will not depend on F. Okay, whatever is the mode, we need to load it, whether it is 0 or 1, we have to load it. So it doesn't depend upon what is the content of F. In fact, F has not arrived at. Okay, after loading only F will be available. Okay, so if you are not using any register, but in our design, suppose the mode input is if it is going to remain for a longer time, then we don't need a register to store F. We can just directly put it as an external input M here. Okay, so it all depend upon specification. So that's why I said specification is the first thing you need to sort out how you want your architecture to be. Okay, so load become 1 when? Can you tell me which of this row load become 1? When start is equal to 0, can there be load signal? when start is equal to 0, can there be load signal? LD. LD is the same input for R1, R2 and F register.
No, sir.
No. Okay, so you put 0. You should not load that time. When start is equal to 0 and Q equal to 0 or Q equal to 1, which time you have to load it? When should I give the load signal? And start became 1. So when start become 1, I told we have to load. But then there are two options, when state is 0 or state is 1. So where should be my load become 1? Here is where we are loading. Start is 1 and we are going to load. So what was my state there? S0, right? When I am at S0, start became 1, then I have to load it. And after loading, I go to S1, right? So I should load here. Is that clear? And here I should not load. Here I should keep the previous data, whatever I loaded, it should be kept there. Then only it will be available for multiplication or addition, right? So there is only one place I should load, that is when start equal to 1, Q equal to 0. And here also there is start equal to 1, Q equal to 0. So I should load here, irrespective of what is F that what is going to be the content of F. I should not depend on that. Okay, so that is my load. Now what about select? Can you tell me when is select becoming 1? Which row? You have to answer me. Unmute and answer me. When is my select? Select is what? The control input of multiplexer. When should it be 1? When should it be 0? Whether it is at state 0 or state 1. S0 or S1?
S1.
S1. Okay, so that means Q should be 1, right? When Q is 1, that is the time select input should be decided. Okay, so when Q is 1, it should be what? It should be equal to the value of F, right? If F is 0, select should be 0. Are you following? Whenever Q is 1, so this is another place Q is 1, so at that time F is 0, so I should have a 0 here, and then another place Q is 1 is here. That time my F is 1, so I should have my F equal to 1. Okay, and one more place Q is 1. When Q is 1, that is the time I do the addition or multiplication. So here also my F should be 1. So when Q is 1, in fact if you look at start, if start is 0, I can put don't care also here. Start is okay, or I can put 0. Because according to the state diagram here, so the state diagram does not tell anything, but the ASM chart, if you look at, whenever I am in this state, this is where I do the operation. Okay, whether it is 0, if it is 0, I perform. So this is what I am saying. When S is equal to 0, that's all what we need to check. So when S is equal to S is equal to 1, the state is equal to 1 means S1. when I am at S1 state, so that is Q equal to 1. If F is 0, I do addition. So select input is 0. Okay, so F is 0, I do addition. Here also F is 0 because Q is 1. So we only need to check Q equal to 1 case, and when Q equal to 1 case, if F is 0, we put 0. If F is 1, for Q, not this. If Q equal to 1, if F is 1, I put 1. Okay. Again, when Q equal to 1, if F is 1, I have to put my select input 1. Okay. Next is load 3. When should I load? Which state I am going to do the loading operation? S0 or S1? There are only two states.
S1.
S1. So only we need to look at the case for Q equal to 1. That is S1. Okay. Q equal to 1 is S1. So when Q equal to 1, I have to always load. Whatever is my content, I have to load. Okay. So Q equal to 1, the load will be 1. Wherever Q equal to 1. That is why I said this is whether you do multiplication or addition, you have to load the register when Q equal to 1. It doesn't depend upon F. Okay. Earlier operation depended on F, but this doesn't depend upon F. Okay. The remaining one I have to give 0. I should not load. Okay. I should not load. So I have to put. I cannot put don't care there. But here in the select input, when Q is equal to 0, I don't care. Because as long as I am not loading, I don't care. So I can put don't care there. But all the other cases, that is when Q equal to 1, I have to put in there whatever is the value of F. Okay. Now finally BC. Okay. So BC should be same like LD3. Whenever you load, only register R3, that is the time you should give. So whenever the result, so result will come whenever you load the register R3. At that time your tri-state buffer. So it's basically same function. LD3 and BC are same control signal, as you can see, and L1, L2, L3 is what is LD. They are also same control signal. I am not writing separately. So similarly LD3 and B3, and select is a, so we only require 3 control signals which are unique. And then so next we need to design the FSM or controller. Okay, so let's do that. So we need to only look maybe the first 4 cases only we need to look. So okay. So there is only one flip-flop, which is my Q, and I have my D there. Now what should be my next state? If you look at here, the next state is going to be 1 only under one condition, that is when start is equal to 1, start is equal to 1 and Q is equal to 0. Okay, so I can write it as how will I write? So there should be a start input, then start equal to 1 and Q and suppose q bar is available here. So I take q bar and AND it with okay, that's the function q. If you want, you can put kmap, but there are only two variables, start and q. Okay, if you do the kmap for it, it's trivial. So we are q plus. Okay, q plus is same as d for d flip flop. That's an advantage. So that's why separately I did not write a d input. So you can have a start and the present state. So start could be 0 or 1, q could be 0 or 1. Now according to this, you look at, there is only one case where it is 1, which is 1 0 1 0. So this is where it is 1, all else is 0. So if you do kmap, you will get that, and that is d is equal to start into q bar. Okay, so this is my start and this is my q bar. I take an AND operation, so that is my next state. So I am ready with my state. So this will do the state diagram according to what we have drawn earlier. Okay, so this state diagram will be implemented. If start is equal to 0, it will remain at S0. Start equal to 1, it will go to S1, and next it will go to S0. So this will be implemented by this. Now we need to generate the control signal, which depends upon external input and the state output. Okay, in Mealy machine we know that the output depends upon present input and state output. So that is what we are going to look at. Again, LD doesn't depend upon F. So again, we only need to consider one half of it, because LD doesn't depend upon F. So LD is what? LD is same as your D. You can see that, right? 0 0 1 0 0 0 1 0. So whenever D is the next state that we have generated, so that itself is my LD. So this is my LD. I used capital letter right there. Okay, so this is my first control signal, which will apply to, so whenever the start is 1 and we are at S0, that is the time we need to load. No other time we need to load. So it will load accordingly, the first 3 register. And then what is the next input? This is select input. So select input, that depends upon F. Okay, so if you look here, select input and F, if you look the cases of 1, when F is 1, you can take this down case also as 1. So we can say it is same as your F. Okay, select is same as F. So select input, you can, so F is available as an input to the system. So I will just throw it here. F is available, and so that is my select. So this is my F. So F I can directly connect to select. Okay, so Then LD3 and BC are same. LD3 what? LD3 is depending upon what? LD3 depend upon Q. When Q is 1, LD3 is 1. So it's just Q only. So you take, this is LD3 and buffer control. Okay, so I have generated all the control signal LD, LD3, BC, select. So you give that. Okay, so you need to put in that into this. Okay, I hope the question that was earlier asked, now I can answer. The select input, if I want to generate, I just need to connect it directly. Okay, from F you connect it to the select input. Okay, that's what the control signal. Okay, it doesn't depend upon state. Okay, and then LD3 is what? LD3 is the state output. Whenever we are in state S1, then only we need to load, and whenever we load, we need to open this passage so that output can come at the output. Otherwise, whatever earlier, when we are at S0, Y will be in high impedance state. So one cycle it will be in high impedance state. The next state, as long as it is in S0 state, that is idle state. So for example, for a long time into this block we don't have any data coming in, it's just sitting idle. Okay, nothing is coming in. So my start is 0. As long as my start is 0 and no data is coming, so I will remain in high impedance state. But when a data comes after one clock cycle, the controller state will go to S1. At that time my result will come there, and my done. Okay, done I have not mentioned. So done I have not mentioned. So done is an output. Okay, it's so when will that be? So that will be basically S1 only. Okay, so you can just add it here. So that's not a you can think of it as a control signal also. So done should be here. So that will be available at the output. Once the result come, the done will also come at the output. So they both will come at the output, and then as per our state diagram, it will go back to the idle state. Idle state means S0. So the output will only come and the done will only come for one cycle. After that it will again enter into the idle state, and in the idle state we can wait for longer time until the start is high again. Okay, so that's how we have designed. But if you want it to be designed in a particular different way, depending upon that specification, you have to modify it. Okay, so is the procedure clear? Is there any doubt?
So
yes.
So for the select input, there are some don't care conditions. So how F will understand that there are don't care? So if we give the F input directly to the select input. So.
Yeah. Okay. You see, the F input is directly connected to the select. So if F is 0, we have to perform addition. If F is 1, we have to perform multiplication. Okay, so those things are performed here. Suppose it is continually performed, because it's a combinational circuit. Whenever an input comes in the combinational circuit input, it will just do addition and multiplication all the time. But that doesn't mean that we are getting it in R3. So let it perform. We don't care. What we care about is what will be coming into R3.
Yes,
okay. So it will be loaded into R3 only when your LD3 is high.
Yes, sir.
So that way we are controlling it. So when we look as a block like this, everything is working fine, but internally there may be addition, subtraction, multiplexing, all of these are happening, but that is not reflected at the output. So what we care is ultimately the output and input of the complete block. What is happening inside, we don't care. That's a degree of freedom that I have. If in the specification it is mentioned that something has to be blocked from running in order to save the power, why should the gates perform those logic operations? They could be frozen in order to reduce the power consumption by the chip. Of course, you can then take into account of that constraint and then modify the circuit in such a way that addition and multiplication will only happen when you want it to happen. But right now, addition and multiplication is continually happening with whatever is the data stored in R1 and R2. The moment you put or not put a data, there may be some random data. So with the random data also, it will do multiplication and addition. But we are not loading those things into R3. Loading is done only when we require it. So that's basically the thing. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.